MAATSports podcast brings you the latest stories, news, happenings around the Finnish Football League. Do you want to know anything regarding the Finnish Football League? Then tune in to this podcast because Musa and Sebastian talk extensively about the Finnish football. All right. Welcome once again to yet another episode of MAATSports podcast. Today we will be talking about the transfers that are happening, the current transfers happening in the Finnish veikkausliiga. A lot of teams are beginning to strengthen their squads. A lot of teams are looking forward to stay in the league until by the end of the season. So we'll be looking at how far the teams have been strengthening their squad and what they have been doing. And as usual and as always, together with me, Sebastian. Sebastian, welcome once again to MAATSports podcast.
Thank you, Musa. Great to be back and looking forward to this episode. Speaking about some transfers with you and strengthening of the teams and that kind of stuff. It's an interesting time always, the transfer window. So we'll get most probably some good discussion about this one.
Absolutely true. So, Sebastian, a lot has been happening in transfer windows. A lot of players have moved from one club to another, from foreign clubs to Finland, within Finland as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of transfers has actually happened with the bottom teams. Actually, AC Oulu, KuPS, they have done most of the biggest numbers of transfers so far.
Yeah.
In this league. What are your takes on this one?
Well, it's not surprising, is it? The bottom teams, naturally, they want to do everything possible within their budget and capabilities to avoid relegation. Yeah. So this is their final push, actually to strengthen the team. They've now played half a season, so they know they can see, possibly their signings in the summer, in the winter season, which have been successful, which have not been so successful. They have identified some weak points in their squad that they want to start strengthening or try to strengthen into. And I think we've seen that with KuPS and AC Oulu both. They have signed about 5 players, I think, each.
Yeah. In
this transfer window only. So they're definitely looking to fight until the very end against relegation.
Exactly.
So that's not surprising. And then again, the top teams may be just looking for some specific players that can actually strengthen their team. They don't need to do too much. Maybe they have one eye on the European games they might be playing, And if some players are leaving the transfer window to European clubs, for example, Lahti, Asenun left. So maybe, that was a bit surprised that they haven't replaced Asenun with an attacking player. They signed a centre back, but they're not doing too bad even after that. So
yeah. And first, let's talk about the top teams signing new player. First, let's look into Oyiko. Oyiko brought in, or Team Spar came back to Finland.
Yeah.
After a good spell in international football or outside Finland and playing also for Finland. What are your takes on Team Spar coming back to Finland?
Well, he's getting to the age that he will be most probably thinking about his final clubs in his career before he retires as a player. So it could be. I was a bit surprised that he chose to come to Finland at this stage. I think he could have still managed 1 or 2 years abroad, playing, at maybe a higher level. But the only club that could interest him was HJK, I think, in Finland. Yeah. So. Plus, like I said, HJK have got a wonderful facilities, wonderful. They're playing in Europe, fighting for the top positions always in Finland, So he has a chance to win some trophies with HJK, at least domestic trophies. And HJK also are getting, an excellent leader, much experience to their midfield, and also a so-called marquee player with a big media value also. So a solid signing from HJK.
Yeah. I think so too. I definitely agree to that it's a solid signing for Oyiko, because definitely Oyiko is building a very strong team so far this season as well. Even though we believe at the beginning of the season they already have a 22 solid players. They have 2 teams of first 11 any day in the Finnish football. But looking at where they are in the European competitions and European championships that they are involved in, definitely they've even strengthened their squad a lot more further. And I believe that this will help them as well on the long run. And moving to FC Lahti, actually talk about Arsene leaving the team and Lahti not replacing him with a striker but a centre back. For me also, that's quite interesting. But if you remember in our last episode, we were actually talking about let's see how they manage with the goals after Arsene leaves. But to my biggest surprise, they've actually got a whole lot of goals.
Yeah.
The last game, I think they won 3-0, if I remember correctly, was it against KuPS?
Yeah.
They won 3-0. So it seems like even though Arsene, which we believe was one of their goal-scoring prowess before he left, even though he left, it's not going to be a problem for them to manage the center forwards and to get goals. But rather, probably they believe that they just need someone in the defense line, and they've strengthened that part. But this player, Villa, from that comes into FC Lahti, El Alami, is actually a young player from, I think, one of the young teams around Lahti regarding this. So I believe that they believe in the process in which they have on Arsenal, and they see another prospect in this guy, and they are brought in him into the team. So we just look forward to see how far he plays, or how much he plays, and how well it develops with FC Lahti.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, FC Lahti is a good. Usually, two things happen if they lose a kind of key player in the team. Either it backfires and the team, it affects negatively on the team, and they'll be, starting to lose games, not managing to score anymore. But then again, there's another chance, like now has happened with Lahti, like you said, that another player steps in and they start to play, in fact, maybe more as a team. And, the goals will be divided more between each attacking players instead of just one direct player, that they always try to find the specific player who they know is the magic player or the key player, and, try to play through him always to get some goals. So far, Lahti is doing really good in that situation. And like you said, young centre-back, interesting guy. Let's see how he manages the rest of the season, and if he can build a name for himself like Arsenal did.
Yeah, well, let's see. We'll keep an eye on that. Okay. Let's look at KuPS. KuPS brought in Team Väyrynen, a center forward. So far, domestic league, of course, KuPS have had a shaky start in the beginning of the season, but they've gotten themselves back into the league. They are in the second position now on the table in Finland. They are getting the goals that they need. Actually, three of KuPS players was in the top 11 or first 11 team of the month in the month of July in Finland. So they have a strong squad already. But now bringing in a center forward, what's your take?
Well, there's definitely wanting to sign some more attacking maybe options, maybe a different kind of striker than what they have available at the current moment. Also, I think it is aimed at the European games. I think they are still within the European games. They just drew the latest 2-2 unfortunate draw at the last minute equalizer against, so they're wanting to get into the proper European games. And I think it's just, a handpicked strengthening regarding those kind of European games. They might need a different sort of striker with a different sort of profile than to the current ones they have. In order to, give some more attacking threat in certain kind of situations between certain kind of different opponents. That is my take on it. Domestically, I don't think they needed to strengthen in the attacking line. They're doing pretty well now, finding their rhythm in the games, winning those games. I think it is the same thing as with HJK. They're focusing more one eye on the European games and trying to get some more success from those ones.
And one player who I'm really happy for in this KuPS lineup so far this season is your player, definitely Anton Popovic. He has really stepped up his game. His level of consistency has been very adequate. It hasn't really dropped since the beginning of the season. He's really finding his form out there in KuPS, and playing in this European Conference League with KuPS definitely will expose him to bigger opportunities, to bigger clubs out there around Europe, and hopefully he will be making a bigger move by the end of this season, or probably by the end of next season if he still wants to prove himself a bit further with KuPS. But I'm really happy for Anton, and he also made the team, the first 11 team of the month for last month of the veikkausliiga for last month. So really good for him, really making his way up there, and hopefully continues in that line. So let's move on to talking about KuPS, Sebastian.
Yeah, they've strengthened again in this transfer window a lot with their new coach. That is understandable. He has his new ideas, new game plans, new way of playing. He wants certain kind of players in, and he has also brought in some of the players that he knows. A lot of Spanish guys coming in, this kind of stuff in the lineup, playing a certain way. So he'll technical football, more possession-wise football. like I said, they could be possibly fighting against relegation really this season if they can find the blend and get it correct and get those new guys playing into the team style of play as soon as possible. Of course, the problem, same thing with Oulu, when you have so many new players coming in, and if they're first team players, it will take time for them to gel, time for them to start to know the way the coach wants them to play. So you might not see a change within the first 2 or 3 games, but it's a long season, still plenty of games left. So in the long run, most probably, it is about how fast they can get those new players now clicking and fitting into the coach's style of play.
Exactly. Yeah, well, looking at that, truly, I will say also for sure, they've definitely strengthened their squad. And from the possible 5 that they've actually brought in this transfer, 2 of them are center forwards.
Yeah.
Actually, 3 of them are center forwards.
Yeah.
And 2 left backs. So obviously they've identified where their problem is. Looking at KuPS midfield with the likes of Amadine Gaye there, definitely they probably feel like they are comfortable enough there. But looking at their forward, they haven't been having the goals. And since the arrival of these center forwards, they've actually gathered some more goals, or even not conceding at all. One game they played, in their last 3 games, they played a 0-0, a 1-1, and they lost to FC Lahti 3-0. So seems like something is beginning to work out fine for them. And if they keep up in this manner, I think they will be gathering some few points here and there, and probably might put a challenge up against FC Honka, EFCO Marianhem, if they are not doing much in their own team to strengthen their squads.
Yeah, like I said, KuPS have only managed 12 goals so far in 14 games, so it's not a surprise that they are heavily investing in attacking players, those kind of creative goal scorers, in order to get some more goals that they need in order to win the game. Exactly. Because if they concede an average about 2 goals a game, that means you have to score 3 to win. So it's natural that they're trying to enforce that weak part from their game. Better attacking players with more flair, more finishing capabilities, more speed, this kind of stuff. So it is clear. Yeah, and it could be definitely, like I said, they are looking now really good transfer window for them. And let's see what happens, hopefully not at the expense of Honka, but
hopefully not.
It could be a tough end to the season.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that it's going to be a tough end to the season. It's going to be a tough, particularly between these certain teams, between FC Honka, EFCO Marianhem, FC Honka, KuPS, AC Oulu. It's definitely going to be a tough end to the season, even though Honka is sitting down or is having 15 points at this time. But looking at how things are going with 15 points, 14 games, 13 games for EFCO Marianhem, 13 games for FC Honka, 11 and 9 points respectively. There is no big difference. 2 losses, 2 wins for any of these teams will make a lot of difference, and the table might change.
Exactly. It's very close between the bottom 4 teams now. And so far, like you said, KuPS and Oulu have already strengthened a lot. EFCO Marianhem have strengthened with an attacking player. Yeah. And Honka is the only team out of those 4 who hasn't strengthened at the current moment with any players. So let's see. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. I hope Honka looks into this and probably even listen to this episode and realize that, but I guess they know that a lot of teams are strengthening their squad at the moment. So I bet they will be looking forward to do something positive as well.
Yeah, it's about finding the right player in the right position right now. I think they have a full enough squad. They have a deep enough squad, enough rotation players and squad players. They're looking for a clear reinforcement player in Honka's position, either a striker or a midfield player, creative player, I do believe, because they have also been suffering in the attacking phase. So, but those kind of players usually, like you said, the best ones are taken now at this point of the season, and those ones who are still free and available, they won't come cheap. They won't come cheap, so they have to be ready to invest some serious salary, so you get those players that they really need.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, moving on from that KuPS strengthening of the squad, let's go now talk about AC Oulu, which is the other team who have strengthened their squad so heavily in this league. Yeah. And actually, their works paid off because immediately they did all of these signings right before their Oyiko games.
Yeah.
Right before their Oyiko game, rather, sorry, not games. And during that game, they came up with a wonderful and a big surprise, winning Oyiko 2-1 at their home stadium. So, looking at that 5 additions from AC Oulu, even though after that game against Oyiko, they've actually lost their 2 consecutive games against Senayoke and against Ilives, which was a real big surprise to me that they lost those games. But looking at it, Sebastian, what would be your take in these AC Oulu teams with this set of players?
Well, two, of course, clear names come up to my eyes, Usman Saleh and Sergei Eremenko.
Yeah.
These guys, in the midfield player and a right winger, attacking phase guys. And of course, Lucky Opara, also the right fullback. And it's looking, they've signed a couple of right wingers, a right back, and a couple of central midfielders. So they're looking for some speed and threat on the flanks, and also, some creativity and, game possession, ball possession in the midfield area. So I think the signings have been pretty good for AC Oulu. And again, we come down then to the thing after the wonderful Hoyiko results. It was a tough game against Asiiko. You only lost by 1 goal. It was 3-2.
Yeah.
3-2, a tough game, but still, like we said, Asiiko is not a bad team. They should be in the top 3, top 4 in the Finnish league, always so. And then against Ilves, that would have been a bit more, I would have expected a bit more because Ilves are not in such a good place, but, 1-0, again, just losing by 1 goal. So the games are going to become kind of, just losing by 1 goal means that the differences are very, very small at this point between the teams. So, like I said, giving time, I think those players will get into the AC Oulu team better and better, and we could be seeing some improved results for you guys also.
Exactly. Looking at those games, those 3 games that you just talked about now, in those 3 games, AC Oulu managed to score 4 goals. And these 4 goals have actually come from the new set of players.
Yeah. Saleh and Opara scored against Asiiko.
Yeah. Exactly. Actually, against Asiiko, yes, Saleh and Opara, Lucky Opara and Saleh, Usman Saleh scored, and against Oyiko, Lucky Opara scored as well, and was it Denis Salanovic also scored?
Yeah.
In the game so the 4 goals have come from their new set of players, and that is a big positive thing for the team.
Yeah, and a funny coincidence also, or not a coincidence maybe, that they have been also the right-sided players, the right winger and the right fullback.
Yeah.
So they have scored from their right flank. So it looks like a strong attacking flank for us on the right side.
Yeah, exactly. And if they keep up this pace, that will definitely go a long way for them in staying in the league this season. And something quite interesting happened with this whole signing that AC Oulu have actually made. Of course, Usman Saleh is the only player who has been in Finland for a couple of, maybe 1 or 2 seasons with KuPS before moving to AC Oulu. Every other 4 have come from different teams outside Finland. And 2 of each of these 4 players are both in the same team. Lucky Opara and Sergei Eremenko both plays in Latvia in the same team. Actually, and also this team is sporting director is Alex Eremenko.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there is some kind of a blend and a little bit of connection with these players already, knowing themselves before even coming to Finland. So I think also this actually helps the integration of these players into the teams as well, which is a very good move from AC Oulu for me. And I think teams also should actually look at this area of recruiting players and see what they can do to develop strengthen the squad in this match, because I believe that having 2 players coming from the same team into a new team helps their integration into the team a lot much faster.
Yeah, naturally. If they, friends with each other, they know each other, have played with each other in their previous team, for example, on the right-hand sided flank, they will know each other's movements, can support themselves more naturally. And that will just fasten the integration process into the new team. And like you said, the results are immediate in AC Oulu's case.
Yeah.
So definitely a good point. And also when I'm looking at AC Oulu's, the remaining fixture list, you're going to play against IFK Marienham next.
Yeah.
And then you still have 2 games against FC Haka, for example.
Yes.
Away game and a home game. So,
Exactly.
if you manage to win those 3 games, you'll be, doing a very strong step towards, maintaining your place in veikkausliiga. I would think so.
I would think so too. And fine, for sure. And tomorrow, not today, sorry, is the game against IFK Marienham. Yeah. And from the last 3 performances, I want to believe that the boys will be coming out in full force to show the fans again that what they did against Oyiko, even though they haven't been able to put up the same performance on their 2 away games, they will be they will be doing everything to put up the same performance against IFK Marienham. And I'm really looking forward to a win in that game for AC Oulu. So that's
and you're only playing against after Inter twice. You have to play against Inter also 2 times, but that is the only clearly top 5 club that you have to play against anymore during the remaining of the season. Then you have a game against FC Lahti, you have a game against Helsingin IFK, 2 games against Lahti, 1 game against IFK, 2 games against Haka. So the rest of the season is looking pretty nice fixture wise. You have chances definitely to win some points with AC Oulu there.
Exactly. And AC Oulu is really looking forward to those games. And I believe that with these numbers and with these strengths that they've had already so far, they are definitely going to make a difference. And still on AC Oulu, it's also quite an amazing thing that these 5 players who have come into the team have regular starters in their last 3 games. Actually, only Usman didn't start the first game, but came in at the beginning of the second half. So that simply shows me that AC Oulu also knows exactly the direction that they want to go. And they bring in the players not to come and sit on the bench, but to come and to bring those impacts, to bring that positive vibes into the team right away. And I really commend the management of AC Oulu on what they have done in this recruitment. And these boys are really showing their qualities in the veikkausliiga. I hope they keep it up.
Yeah, definitely. And not just the management, whether or not you're speaking the coaching side management, like I said, I think it's the whole club management. They're doing a good job in AC Oulu. They've done a good job there for many years now, Like I said, your guys are getting a new wonderful stadium being built in AC Oulu. And I show you the facilities are wonderful in Oulu. So it's a long-term plan they are operating on, and they're doing a good job, the whole club in AC Oulu. So that is good news for Oulu football.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving away from AC Oulu, let's talk about I think so far the only player that FC Honka has brought in strengthening their squad.
Yeah.
Izuna Uzochukwu. This actually it's a very familiar name. When I saw the signing, I was happy for him and I was happy for FC Honka as well. It's been a journey for Izu. We popularly call him Izu, but it's been a journey for him with his football career. He moved to FC Michelin when he was 16 years old, and he was a big prospect with FC Michelin. If he could move from FC Michelin to a team in Russia, you should know the level and the belief that the team had on him then. But for some reason, which I don't know, he returned back to Nigeria, and now he's back to FC Honka. So I'm really hoping for him. He's a central midfielder as well. I'm really hoping for him that he get it right over there with FC Honka and do what he loves to do and perform at his very, very best. But leaving Izu and talking about FC Honka itself.
Yeah.
Looking at their stance on the table, Sebastian, what are your takes on bringing in a central midfielder? Do you think they need more strikers also? Or do you think
they have scored. Well, they have scored at least over a goal per game. They've scored 16 goals in 14 games, plus conceded only 19. So, they're pretty close in the goal-wise, conceded and scored. So maybe they're looking for a bit more. We have to remember that Honka also, they had a very tight budget. They were monetary-wise very short of cash. And a couple of times they were even speaking of bankruptcy, during some days. Can they even build a team for this season? Do they have the money to do it due to this COVID thing? So that they've managed to at least strengthen with one reputable player is, a good big thing and a good thing for Honka. But maybe they have, like I said, the Honka management and coaches are also experienced, and I think they have clearly identified a certain position where they would need a certain type of player to be strengthening either the link-up play between the defense and attack, or then just, creating more in the attacking creative phase, or there may be some offering some more defensive stability in the midfield, and also with this kind of play. And I think Isu will offer, all those things.
Yeah, I believe Isu will offer all those things. That's one of his biggest qualities. He's very strong in defending, and it's very good in actually linking up with the attack. These are one of his qualities. So I believe that's what's going to bring to the team. And hopefully FC Honka will get things right and get more goals and move up a little bit up the table. But looking at the table so far, Sebastian, let's quickly do a quick roundup on the first 6 and the bottom 6 and discuss about what kind of a possible change that could happen in this table. So on the first 6 on the table, we have Oyiko with 14 games, 35 points. We have KuPS, 13 games, 28 points. Third, we have FC Inter, 14 games, 26 points. FC Lahti, fourth, 14 games, 26 points. SJK, fifth, with 14 games as well, 24 points. And Helsinki EFK, sixth, 13 games with 20 points. Let's look at these 6 teams on the top 6 teams first, Sebastian.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are you expecting any changes?
Well, Hoyiko is still at the top of the table as they should be, but KuPS are coming in now really strong.
Yeah.
They have one game in hand to Hoyiko, and if they win that game, they will be on 31 points, just 4 points away from Hoyiko.
Exactly.
And that will be actual pressure then on Hoyiko. If they, suffer another freak results like against AC Oulu, I'm sorry, I'm calling it a freak result, but it could happen due to their European commitment still. It could happen that they have to again choose to rotate some players and maybe have a bad day, get a red card here, maybe concede a soft penalty there, lose another 3 points. Suddenly KuPS are breathing on their neck immediately, and then it will be an interesting end to the season. So I'm happy to see that KuPS are managing to challenge Hoyiko now, making it a bit more interesting to follow the rest of the season championship-wise, instead of Hoyiko just running away with it. That was looking like they would do, after the first 5-6 games. Exactly. They were just purely dominating, and KuPS were, having a blip, starting slow. Same with Inter, Asiko, these kind of teams. Yeah. Inter also 26 points, but not 9 points out of Hoyiko. I can see Inter, they will be top 3 this season, definitely. I don't think they will fluctuate too much out of that position. Yeah. Lahti is still, going strong. They started the season strong. They're still going strong. And now if they can finish the season strong, they can be definitely challenging Inter for the top 3 places, which will be a big surprise in my books. Yeah. Asiko also, they have improved their game. They're only, 2 points away from 3rd place. So it could be an interesting fight for 3rd position between Inter, Lahti and Asiko. Cool. What is happening here now? And then, of course, the 6th position, top 6, Ilves, Helsingin EFK, maybe even Honka, but I would think that Ilves and Helsingin EFK are those 2 teams who will be fighting for the 6th position and trying to get into the upper league playoffs at the end of the season.
Exactly. And that's going to be quite an interesting battle between Helsinki EFK and Ilves as well. Mind you, Helsinki EFK have a game at hand against Ilves. So if they win that game, they will be on 23 points, which will put them in a better position than Ilves. But also, it's still a long season to go, and this will definitely be something that Ilves will be looking at to keep themselves at that very safe level where they know that they don't have to be playing the relegation playoffs.
Yeah, and definitely.
No team wants to be in the relegation playoffs. Anything happens in these kind of games.
Yeah, so, that is true.
Yeah,
that is
I
true.
guess Ilves will be working. Getting into the 6th position for Ilves will be like winning the league for them anyway in this season.
Yeah, they will be satisfied with that. They've lost many key players to, Europe and other clubs this season, but, they've had a big rebuilding season, I think, for Ilves. And next season, if they manage to keep the same kind of squad they had this season, I think they'll be much stronger again.
Yeah, exactly. And quickly on to the bottom 6. So we've just talked about Ilves. Ilves on the 7th position, 14 games, 20 points. FC Honka in the 8th position, also with 14 games, 15 points.
Yeah.
With 15 points. And EFK Mariahem, 9th position, 13 games, 11 points. FC Haka, 13 games as well with 9 points. FC KuPS 11th position, 14 games, 8 points. AC Oulu 12th position, 14 games, 7 points.
Yeah, so, like I said, the bottom 6, I think Honka and Ilves, Helsingin IFK, these guys, they won't be sucked into the relegation battle anymore. I believe they will be, in the bottom 6. Honka in the bottom 6. That is good for them. They started the season so badly, and it's very challenging season due to their finances problems also. But they are, managing it. They're finding their step now, and also managed to even strengthen now in the midfield with Isu. So I believe that will be enough to keep them in the Premier League. They shouldn't be worried about the relegation playoffs. Yeah. But then, like we said, we're talking about the bottom 4 teams. Then Maarianham, Haka, KuPS, and Oulu. Between those teams, anything can basically happen. It depends on the form now that those players are getting. Yeah. And of course, worrisome from my side of view is that 3 out of those 4 teams have strengthened their players. Maarianham have signed a striker, KuPS and Oulu, we just discussed about it. 5 players each, and Haka is the only one who haven't signed anybody so far. So it could be, really, really, really tough end of the season between Haka, KuPS and AC Oulu. And like I said, a big game next, AC Oulu against Maarianham. If Oulu win that game, they're suddenly right up there again, and Maarianham are suddenly brought into the relegation battle.
Yeah, exactly.
And Maarianham and Haka have got 1 game in hand now to KuPS and Oulu, but Haka are playing against Inter this Sunday, so that will be a tough game for Haka. Okay. And I hope they manage to. It's a home game again, but I hope they manage to get a point at least out of that game, hopefully 3 points. But statistic-wise and realistically thinking, we have been weakest at home. We still haven't won at home, my God, 1.5 seasons soon. So Inter will be coming in, wanting to fight for the top 3 positions. So it will be a tough ask for Haka this Sunday.
Exactly. Well, we've gone through these tables. We've talked about how teams are strengthening their squads. We've seen the position of the teams in the league table as well. We've discussed our expectations, our obvious thoughts so far. So we just have to leave the rest for the teams and the table to decide what it's going to be of it by the end of the season.
Yeah. But the good thing is that we are in for an interesting end of the season. There's still KuPS is making the championship fight interesting with HJK. That's nice to follow, and also the relegation battle is between 4 teams basically at this moment. So that will be also interesting to see how that plays out. And when we come to the playoff stages, the upper and lower playoffs, it will be even more interesting then, because the bets will be pretty high in that kind of situation. Then who will get relegated, who will win the championship, and who will get to European places.
Exactly. It's going to be very interesting, very, very interesting. Particularly, I will be looking at the relegation playoffs when it starts so much, because looking at how things have gone so far this season, it's quite surprising for me to see that it's even the 2 teams who got promoted into the veikkausliiga from last season, Ykkönen, are the ones making a whole lot of effort to strengthen their squad at the mid-season.
Yeah.
And so they have a belief of the fact that they just want to stay in this league, because they believe that staying in this league is better for them, is better for their status as a football club, and better for probably even their city as well. For example, AC Oulu, if they stay in the league, definitely they will still probably remain the only team in the northern part of Finland in the veikkausliiga. I don't know. Rovaniemi Palloseura is doing well in Rovaniemi in Ykkönen so far. Yeah. But at least until now, they could stay. And considering that Rovaniemi has played more games than probably a whole lot of the teams actually as well. But looking at it as it is, if they should stay in the league, they'll probably be the only team in the northern part of Finland. Hopefully Rovaniemi can promote, so we have 2. And looking at KuPS, it will be a big thing for a city like Kotka to have a team again in their second season in the veikkausliiga. So these are good perspectives from these clubs to actually strengthen their squad and to remain in the league. And I really hope that Haka will be thinking of the same thing, at least to give Veikkausliiga something to look out for again in the coming season.
Yeah, definitely. And always keep in mind that it is much easier to stay in the league than to get promoted. It is so much more easier to try and stay in the league than to actually try and get promoted. As we saw last time when Honka got relegated to Division 1, it took 7-8 years for them to get promoted back up. Same thing with Oulu, Kotka, if you get promoted, there's only one team coming up, the second team has to play playoffs. It's very hard. You lose the money, you lose the sponsors, you lose the budget, you lose everything, you lose your best players because they get used to playing in the Premier League status. So it's a new team rebuilding session altogether again. It starts all over again, but just with way less money. And, so that's another good point, why they are heavily investing now that they are in the Premier League. They want to stay in it because it is much easier to do that than to get promoted if they get relegated back.
Yeah, true. On this note, Sebastian, we will be rounding up for today's podcast. It has really been a very interesting discussion with you, as always, again this morning. Thanks for being on the podcast show. And if you will have any final note for our listeners, definitely they will be glad to hear it. So.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure to be here again. Like I said, very interesting end to the Finnish Premier League season coming in. So just viewers to stay tuned, watch the games, if you can. If not, just, look at what will be happening and follow these podcasts. We'll be still catching in with Musa at the end of the season for a good championship battle and a very, very interesting relegation battle. What will happen? Thank you for my part. Glad to be back here again.
So from my own side, I want to say thank you to you, all our listeners. And as I will always say, continue to listen to our podcast and continue to support us. And we will continue to bring you the latest and the very best of the Finnish football. On this note, we'll be saying goodbye and have a wonderful day. Bye.
Yes, see you.
This podcast is brought to you by MAATSports, a football management company.